but this season he is bound to be an elite downfield threat and a dominant red zone target, which will up his fantasy points, and we expect him to have another impressive season. Here at the Draft Network, we ranked the top 10 fantasy players for each position, and it is no secret Travis Kelce has been the best fantasy football tight end for years now. He's finished in the top 2 in every season since 2016. He is also one of the leaders in yardage, receptions, target shares, and routes run, which is exactly what fantasy owners are looking for in their tight end. Kelce averaged 10.7 points per game last season, and we are expecting this season to be one of the best Kelce has ever had, so draft him and buckle up for a good fantasy year. Mark Andrews is coming off of the best season of his career, which puts him at our number 2 spot for tight ends. Andrews finally beat out Kelce to lead all tight ends in targets, receptions, yards, and touchdowns. So Kelce better show up to keep his top spot. Andrews is right at his heels. Andrews averaged 11.4 points per game. That is more than Kelce, but Kelce's consistency over the years is the thing that's keeping him ahead of Andrews heading into this season. Draft either of them and you will be just great. Kyle Pitts comes in third on our list. He had one of the best rookie seasons at tight end in NFL history with over 1,000 receiving yards. These numbers didn't translate as well as he hoped into fantasy. Pitts averaged 10.4 points per game, but this season he is bound to be an elite downfield threat and a dominant red zone target, which will up his fantasy points, and we expect him to have another impressive season. George Kittle is fourth on our top tight ends list. He averaged 14 to 16 points per game over the last 4 seasons, playing in at least 14 games each season. Now, those numbers are excellent for a tight end, but he's ranked 4th, rightfully so. Kittle is used for blocking much more than the tight ends ahead of him on this list, which hurts his numbers and his draft stock. Still a great pickup, but not necessarily a first-round grab on fantasy draft day. Darren Waller is 5th on our list because he did have a flashy beginning of last season, but drafters beware. With a new king in town, aka Davante Adams, Adams is predicted to be the team's top pass catcher and will see most of the targets from his bestie Derek Carr. Waller's production has downgraded year after year, and I have no doubt that will continue in the 2022 season. Last season, he averaged just 12.2 points per game. Don't expect much more this upcoming season. Dalton Schultz comes in at 6th for his impressive last season. He played in 17 games, caught 78 passes for 808 yards, and 8 touchdowns on 104 targets. Schultz just so happens to rank 6th among tight ends in targets and yards, 3rd in receptions, and 2nd in touchdowns. He is a solid tight end that averaged 12.3 points per game. He'd be a good pickup for your fantasy team. TJ Hockenson sits 7th on our list, and he certainly has been consistent. His sophomore year, he averaged 11 points per game. Last season, he averaged 12.1. Now, the expectations for this upcoming season is that he will once again be good. Now, I don't think you can say it's too impressive, and we can't expect him to have some breakout year with the consistency he's shown, but he'll be good enough for your tight end spot. Pat Freiermuth had a pretty good rookie year, and I have no doubt he'll get even better in his second year. This is why he's on our top fantasy tight ends list at number 8. He's a clear starting tight end for the Steelers this year, so we can expect more production than his 9.5 points per game that we saw last year. This kid has a promising future in the league and is definitely someone to keep your eye on and consider grabbing him later in your fantasy draft this season. Zach Ertz clearly won by being traded to the Cardinals last season, and they obviously saw the value in him as they have decided to keep him for the next 3 seasons as well. When the Cardinals traded Christian Kirk away, it truly let Ertz rise to the top behind Hopkins to be a top target for this upcoming season. He averaged 12 points per game last season, and I expect him to have an even higher production this season. Dallas Goedert is the final tight end on our list, and for good reason. He's not the flashiest tight end or the most talked about, but he put up an impressive 10.9 yards per target and 14.8 yards per touch last season. He hasn't exceeded 5 receiving touchdowns in his first 4 seasons, so that hurt his stock on our list, but he should have some big numbers coming this season once again, so a pretty good tight end to pick up in the late rounds of a fantasy draft. Now, what are your thoughts on our top 10 fantasy tight ends list? Do you agree? Did we leave any out? Let us know in the comments. For the Draft Network, I'm Brooke Kromer.